Pressing leaders on the juvenile crime crisis in Maryland, we take the matter straight to Senator Jill Carter, who sponsored the new laws. Plus, the juvenile justice laws on the books being put into question, why state's attorneys across Maryland say they're keeping them from doing their jobs.
Republican chatter getting louder over the possibility of trying to impeach President Biden. Why? And what are the challenges for the top 2024 contenders from both parties? I'm Scott Duman in Washington with a look coming up.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
It is not an acceptable response to say there's nothing I can do. That is not the truth, and it's not a benefit to society or to the child to do that.
It has been a summer of violent crime, some fueled by young people, and Fox 45 News is holding your elected leaders accountable. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala. Some are putting the blame on recent changes to how we hold young people accountable for crime. We have team coverage of the juvenile crime crisis and how leaders across the state are reacting. We begin with Mackenzie Frost and an interview you're seeing first on Fox.
Well, we spoke with Senator Jill Carter for about an hour regarding this juvenile justice situation, and she says there is one change that she'll be pushing for during the next legislative session, but she argues the problem isn't the law itself, rather the police and prosecutors not fully understanding what they can do under these new parameters. The rise in juvenile crime impacting communities all across Maryland. We hear from prosecutors and law enforcement say when kids under 12 get picked up for nonviolent crimes like stealing cars, they say there's nothing they can do to hold the youngest offenders accountable.
I do think maybe law enforcement is misconstruing the law.
Senator Jill Carter from Baltimore City was one of the architects of the law. She says the laws themselves aren't the problem.
All these state's attorneys say that there are a few consequences for these nonviolent crimes that these kids are committing, and the kids know that, so they're continuing to engage in this behavior because of the laws. Do you take responsibility for that?
Do I take responsibility? You mean as a member of the legislative body that passed the law? Well, first of all, I don't take what they're saying as fact. I take it as possibly anecdotal or some specific situations. I don't know that that's happening en masse. I would hope that this isn't born out of some type of spite or disdain for changes in the law, because they need to do what they can do. Not one single entity needs to put their hands up in the air and say there's nothing I can do.
We've seen examples of kids routinely let go, like in Baltimore County, where an 11-year-old was picked up by police 13 times since May 31st for stealing cars, released to his parents without facing charges.
How come we keep seeing kids who are getting picked up for these nonviolent crimes time and time again, and nothing seems to be happening to them?
So again, I'm going to say I'm not going to acquiesce that we keep seeing them. I'm going to say that that's what we're being told.
But I mean, we see it right here.
Data. You're talking about one case, right?
And there's 5 or 6 kids involved in all of these string of car thefts and burglaries.
I think it's because of this reason. First of all, I've talked a lot about this alternative called a child in need of supervision petition. And those petitions can be filed by anyone. It sounds like, in my opinion, from the information that one child committed 13 to 17 or maybe more acts that would be crimes, that there should have been an intervention. I think there should have been a police report filed early on, and there should have been a SINS petition filed early on, and something should have been done. I don't know why it wasn't done.
The Child in Need of Supervision, or SINS petition, offers services and programming for families, but it's not mandatory to participate in. Last year, Carter introduced legislation to require law enforcement to file that SINS petition. It passed the Senate, but failed to gain traction in the House. Another attempt to require police to refer young offenders to the Department of Juvenile Services for programming will be made next session. But beyond the SINS petition,
should there be some steps that can be codified to ensure that there is accountability for their actions?
You mean for the children?
Yes.
The under 13s?
Yes.
So I don't know that there should be anything codified for them. I mean, I think already—
Doesn't that send the message that they
like
won't
I've
be held
said,
accountable?
That The court can have the ability to have oversight and make decisions, take the child out of the home, order certain programs and stuff.
So you don't think that there should be anything set in stone, codified, that requires X, Y, and Z to happen when an 11-year-old or a 12-year-old routinely steals cars?
Well, as I've said, I think I'm in favor because I sponsored the bill to make the citizens petitions mandatory, and I think if we start there and we find that we need to do something more, we certainly can. In no way am I suggesting it's not urgent. We should have passed the law last year.
Senator Carter admits there should have been more education to ensure all of the stakeholders understand what they're allowed to do in this new framework. But as for a complete overhaul, that's something Senator Carter says she won't commit to. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, during a sit-down with political commentator Armstrong Williams, Governor Wes Moore said Maryland's juvenile crime laws need to be re-examined.
We have got to make the adjustments necessary that there can be real measurements and levels of accountability. When you have a person who is a repeat violent offender, I'm sorry, I'm coming after you.
Well, the governor stopped short of mentioning any specific changes. Fox 45 News followed up with the governor's office asking what changes he thinks are necessary to ensure real measurements of accountability. We asked why the governor thinks Maryland should wait for the General Assembly to return in January for those changes to be made. After Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott called for a rebuild of the juvenile justice system last week, we asked if the governor agrees. And does the governor believe the Department of Juvenile Services is broken and not holding juveniles accountable for crimes they commit? The governor's office sent Fox 45 News a statement saying the governor will continue working with legislators and community leaders to bring solutions that provide real measures of accountability, but again, no specifics on what he wants to change. Well, Pastor P.M. Smith has spent time working with young people in Baltimore on Fox 45 Morning News. He said the governor and lawmakers need to take specific action to curb juvenile crime.
Total culpability is on the legislature because they could do something. They have the authority. They just won't. Our governor could call a special session. He has authority. He just won't. There will be no accountability. I don't care how much the mayor talks about it. I don't care how much Mr. Moore talks about it. I don't care how much the legislators talk about it, Mr. Ferguson or Ms. Jones, until you exercise the authority that you have to curb that behavior. Maybe not change it, but curb it. So there's blood on their hands, whether it's the young person dying or the young person injuring and killing somebody else.
Top prosecutors across Maryland are pushing for changes within the juvenile justice system. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker continues our exclusive team coverage.
Those we heard back from are all in agreement that the laws on the book need to change, and right now they're only hurting juveniles.
It's the same words coming from prosecutors across Maryland, from Baltimore City.
So what we're realizing when we talk to young people is that young people, the juveniles, know there's nothing that we can do.
To Baltimore County.
They know that, nothing's really going to happen to them if they keep their crime in a certain limit of types of crime.
Montgomery County.
They come in, we can't detain them. They're back in the community the next day. They get picked up for the second one. Can't detain them. They're back in the community again the next day. They pick up a third. They're back in the community again the next day.
And even the Eastern Shore. The state's top attorneys agree their hands are tied when it comes to holding young people accountable for crime. A Fox 45 News exclusive report found police arrested an 11-year-old in connection with more than a dozen car thefts across our region, but he's not facing any charges due to his age. The Juvenile Justice Reform Act prohibits children under 13 from being charged with most crimes. Now we're pressing prosecutors on what needs to change. We sent the following questions to every state's attorney in Maryland, asking, what is your initial reaction to the discovery of an 11-year-old allegedly stealing vehicles? Do you feel juvenile crime has decreased since the beginning of summer? Are you seeing the same repeat juvenile offenders committing car thefts and other crimes? And do you believe now is the time to call for a special session? Baltimore County State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger says they are seeing younger and younger juveniles committing crimes lately, but says an 11-year-old was slightly surprising. When asked about a special session, Schellenberger says he has faith in the governor, adding, I do not think a special session will work. We need the time now to come up with ideas and get people on board. In Carroll County, State's Attorney Haven Shoemaker says the juvenile justice system is failing the people of Maryland, saying this notion of catch and release because a juvenile, such as the repeat car thief, is under a threshold age is pure lunacy. He says victims have even reached out fearful of juveniles charged with violent crimes and released from custody in Carroll County. Shoemaker says it seems there's no other option than a change of law. And in Wycomico County, State's Attorney Jamie Dykes tells Fox 45 she was not surprised to hear about an 11-year-old allegedly stealing vehicles, saying, simply put, there is no meaningful consequence now available in Maryland law for juveniles who commit nonviolent offenses. Dykes believes it is time for a special session, saying children's lives are at stake. If nothing is done, more children will die and more children fall prey to the realities and consequences of bad legislation. I fear that lawmakers will not hold a special session because doing so could be perceived as an admission that they got it wrong.
We have all of the responses we received on our website right now at foxbaltimore.com. In Towson, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
That brings us to our question of the day. Is the General Assembly responsible for the surge in juvenile crime? So far, 95% of people who voted said yes. You can make your voice heard right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote. And Fox 45 News is making your voice heard. If you want lawmakers to address the juvenile crime crisis, scan that QR code on your screen. It'll take you to our website, where we've put together a list of email addresses and phone numbers for your state senators and delegates, including the House Speaker and Senate President. Well, Fox 45 News is your back-to-school headquarters. Schools across the state are officially back in session, including in Baltimore County, which is under the supervision of a new superintendent. Dr. Miriam Yarborough is no stranger to Baltimore County schools, but this is her first time in charge of them. Today on Fox 45 News at 4, we spoke with the president of the Baltimore County Parent Coalition about her hopes for the new school year.
We would just love to see Baltimore County schools back to the level that many of us remember them. We have very high expectations. We want the school to be fun and challenging, but we also wanted to actually educate our kids. You know, with the MCAP scores coming out last week, we're in quite a hole, so we have quite a way to go to really bring things up, and the time is now.
Remember, Fox 45 News is your back-to-school headquarters. Just scan the QR code right there on your screen to check out all of the stories we've posted so far, or go to foxbaltimore.com/back-to-school-HQ. Still ahead tonight, new conversations tonight to possibly impeach President Biden, the new measures that could come as early as next month.
And over the next few hours, temperatures gradually fall to the mid-70s, and we have the chance for showers. I'll let you know impacts to your morning commute in my Weather Authority forecast.
Plus, former President Donald Trump also in the hot seat, how his legal calendar is set to play out.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Republicans are moving closer right now to proposing an impeachment inquiry against President Biden. It could be brought up on the House floor as early as next month if some have their way. And it adds to a list of problems both leading candidates for president face. Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman shows us how.
Lawmakers may still be on summer recess, but that doesn't mean they aren't toiling away behind the scenes. In this case, Republicans going after President Biden using a most serious method.
Will you bring an impeachment inquiry against President Biden this September?
He said he never had any dealings with his son's business, and that he never even talked to him. We've now found out not only did he call into the meetings, he went to dinner, and after the dinner, Hunter Biden got a new Porsche. It is a natural step forward that you would have to go to an impeachment inquiry.
More reports indicating the GOP now working on logistics and schedules on how that could become a reality.
Well, I have a message for Joe Biden this morning. We're coming for you. And if you will not answer the questions for the American people, the Oversight Committee will answer them for you.
Biden, despite being booed in the background, defiant and pointing out Donald Trump's troubles, mocking the former president's mugshot.
Handsome guy. Wonderful guy.
Biden's supporters urging voters to let economic progress be their guide.
The president has a right to be very proud of many of the accomplishments that we've achieved in the last 3 years. Unemployment very, very low. We brought inflation down. We're investing in clean energy.
Yet the growing in popularity group No Labels looking to give voters another option as they consider forming a bipartisan or independent ticket, even eyeing a convention in April, which could play spoiler in a tight race. And then there's the factor of age. While Trump is 77, Biden is 80, and a new AP poll shows that voters do have concerns about each of them, but overwhelmingly worry that Biden would not be able to effectively serve another 4 years. So we're seeing a little bit of concern on both sides of the aisle there, Mary.
And Scott, is the White House saying anything about this push for impeachment?
Yeah, today the White House press secretary calling it a baseless political stunt, saying that the White House is happy to work with members of Congress in a bipartisan fashion on issues that they believe Americans care about, but they said these, quote, actually don't matter. Back to you.
All right, Scott Thuman live in D.C. for us tonight. Thank you. Well, when it comes to former President Donald Trump, his legal calendar is filling up fast. Here is a breakdown of the timeline for his criminal trials alone. October 23rd is the district attorney's proposed start of the Georgia 2020 election subversion case. Trump is pushing for a later date. March 4th is the start of the federal criminal trial in the 2020 election case. March 25th marks the start of the New York criminal trial over Trump's alleged 2016 hush money scheme. And May 20th is the earliest scheduled start of the federal criminal trial in the Mar-a-Lago documents case.
Right now, you're taking a look over Baltimore and over Towson, where we're dealing with very overcast skies. But we're seeing some rain across parts of the region, and that's all associated with our latest weather maker that could result in a few showers tonight and into the morning. 79 currently overcast over Baltimore, and also a little bit breezy with winds out of the east. Around the state, we're mainly seeing the 70s. We still have a couple of 80s, Westminster, Frederick, Hagerstown, all in the low 80s right now. Even though it's mostly dry around much of the state, some areas dealing with rain. We're still seeing that rain in southern Maryland and along parts of the eastern shore. This is associated with a front to our south. Now, overnight, as that front lifts north, our temperatures will drop to the 60s and 70s, and there could be a few showers. Then tomorrow, another chance for showers and the potential for storms. Our temperatures reach the mid-80s. Then we're looking at the upper 80s on Wednesday and the upper 70s on Thursday. So a big drop in temperatures. But after tomorrow, we're looking at a nice and dry pattern. On the HD radar, you'll notice that front is to our south. Ahead of that front, we are seeing those showers tonight. Still that chance for a couple of stray showers. You may hear a rumble of thunder or two. But as we head into the morning, we're talking just a few spotty showers. The day doesn't look to be a washout. However, tomorrow morning, you may be driving on some wet roads. We're talking mostly cloudy skies by the afternoon. And then for the night, another chance for a few showers carrying into Wednesday morning. The afternoon looks great. We're still talking a few clouds lingering, but we'll be back to that mostly dry pattern.
Meanwhile, we're keeping watch on Tropical Storm Idalia, which is forecast to strengthen into a Category 3 hurricane before making landfall in Florida on Wednesday. It will begin to weaken as it moves over the East Coast and then back into the Atlantic. Coming up, I'll have a closer look at what you can expect this week and into the extended weekend and the 10-day forecast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Major flash flooding today east of Charleston, West Virginia. Radar estimates that over 9 inches of rain fell in some places in just 3 hours. First responders were called to at least 15 water rescues by 11 this morning. Many homes and businesses are surrounded by water. A state of emergency was issued in at least 5 counties. This is the 3rd time in a year severe flooding has hit southern West Virginia.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
Coming up after the break, sounding the alarm about suspicious text messages from unknown numbers, how to avoid attempted scams in tonight's Assignment America. In tonight's Assignment America, have you ever received a mysterious text message from an unknown number? I think most of us have. It may be part of a much larger scheme. Cassie Arsenault with our Sinclair sister station has more on what to be on the lookout for and how you can protect yourself.
It starts with a seemingly innocent but misdirected text message. That's how this whole thing begins. And they call it the pig butchering scam. Just like fattening up a pig over time, they're trying to gain your trust. Then comes the slaughter. That's when they take your money and disappear. So here's what the con looks like. First, you'll receive a text message that says something like, "What time are we meeting for dinner this week?" or "Do you want to get lunch?" And you being curious and polite, you'll probably respond saying, "Sorry, you have the wrong number." And that's when the conversation begins. They'll be charming, sometimes even flirtatious to keep that conversation going. They're playing the long game. They want this to last days, weeks, even months to gain your trust. But little do you know, they sent that same text message using technology to thousands, even of millions of other people to A, see if it's a working phone number, and B, to see if you'll respond. So after they finally gain your trust, that's when they'll ask you to invest, whether that's cryptocurrency or another investment. They'll even make a fake website to make it look legit, maybe even ask for a little money, show you a return on it. That's when they get all of your bank account information, and that's when the slaughter happens. They take all of your money, clean out your account, and disappear. The FBI says an individual can lose anywhere between thousands to millions of dollars in this scam.
I would say in general, if you just get a random text out of the blue and they say like, hey, you know, I'm going to change our meeting, I'm late for this or whatever, just assume it's a scam and avoid it. You know, don't reply to it, because then you've just guaranteed that's a good email or a good phone number. You know, just avoid it, stay away from it, and ignore it.
So what do you do if you are taken advantage of? Well, you need to save all the evidence, voicemails, text messages, any screenshots, pictures, websites, URLs, transaction numbers, anything they gave you. Then you're going to want to make a complaint immediately to the Federal Trade Commission or the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. Fighting fraud, I'm Cassie Arsenault. Back to you.
We are getting ready for another round of showers and potential storms tomorrow as highs reach the mid-80s. We'll be mostly dry on Wednesday, 87, 79 on Thursday, but it looks good for the weekend. Sunny on Friday, the 80s and 90s into Labor Day, and then after that, above average temperatures in the 90s. Mary?
Jasmine, thank you. Well, finally tonight, a very special birthday celebration at the Maryland Zoo. Take a look at this baby chimp, Maisie, celebrating her 3rd birthday today. The group of chimps celebrated the birthday girl with a mermaid-themed party. Happy birthday, Maisie. They always want to just play in the box. They don't even need the toy. They just want the box. That's how it goes, especially for 3-year-olds. That's all for Fox 45 News at 6. Family Feud's next. We'll see you back here for the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. Good night.